When you've been working on an art piece for a long time, it can be hard to view it objectively, and it isn't until you have a chance to step back and take it all in again with a fresh set of eyes that you start to notice all the little mistakes and odd design decisions you chose. Ew. I think this is what I've been going through with MIDAS. I don't think it looks terrible, far from it in fact. It's entirely serviceable as far as the visuals go, and given I was mostly focused on mechanics and getting the game into players' hands, a bit of programmer art here or there is totally understandable. But with the release of version 0.2, I've been able to really take the game in with a refreshed view, as if I was seeing it for the first time, and the artist in me just isn't satisfied. It's all kind of gray, the textures could use an update, and god, don't get me started on the menus. But there's no point in beating myself up over this, especially since I have all the tools and abilities to improve these. So for this video, I thought I would change up the format a bit and go part by part into how I worked on making my game look better. Rest assured, I'm still hard at work on the actual gameplay, especially the multiplayer. But if I'm going to be looking at MIDAS for hours a day, I might as well make it easier on my eyes. I think it's most fitting to start with the main menu, obviously. First impressions are key to bringing people in and setting the tone for the whole experience, and it's important for that first impression to be engaging and relevant to the rest of the game. Looking at what I made for version 0.2, it's not bad, but it's about as bare bones as you can get. You have the logo, the buttons, and the background. It's all there, but only in service of having a main menu without much connection to the actual game. So how do I improve this? Well, for starters, I'm going to take a page out of Melee and swap this plain background with a sphere to add a sense of depth, then a touch of arcade nostalgia with a click to start prompt, swap out the logo for a nice new design that wiggles a little, and to make everything come alive, I'll add a fun animation that brings up the buttons. Much better. The unsung hero of this new menu is the sound design. The original was just a single bass note, but by introducing some simple music that syncs with the new animation, it adds a whole new layer of polish to the experience. With that done, I can head into the main game mode and start using these new design elements to further improve the overall look. I go back and forth a lot as to whether or not I like how this scene looks. On the one hand, I think it's a lot closer to the idea I have in my head of what I want my game to look like. But at the same time, it's all a little too disjointed and a lot of the energy gets taken away from the poor lighting. Thankfully, like I was just saying, doing the main menu first gives me a great base to start from in terms of connecting the different design elements. To start with, updating the texture of the player to reflect the blue from the new logo. Now the same with the arena, making it a little brighter but keeping it mostly the same so as to not pull too much attention away from the main elements. Some updated UI elements like a cleaner font for the timer, just to make everything a bit more readable. And as a quick side note, I also added back in the gold trail effect that follows the player. I initially removed this in the transition from 0.1 to 0.2 for worries of performance, but have since improved the underlying code and now that is no longer a concern. I've added some slight adjustments to the lighting and gold shader to help make everything pop, though in order to ensure the most people can enjoy my game as possible, I'll have to forego any form of post-processing that would ramp up the system requirements. Still, I feel these changes all came together quite well, and I'm okay leaving things as they are now for the sake of moving forward in development. What I'm not okay with moving past, however, is probably the number one point of feedback I received after releasing version 0.2. See, I developed this unique mechanic for combat, yet neglected to properly illustrate to the player what exactly this mechanic was doing. So let's remedy that in the final section. Okay, so what's happening in this screenshot? Well, the player has just launched the flail and is likely aiming to hit the target, but something is missing. See, I'd been working on the mechanic for so long that my brain had simply filled in the visual gaps of how everything worked under the hood. To make it clear, the flail is connected by a series of joints up to a main control point here. You don't move the main flail directly, but rather the position of the control point, which is determined by the position of your mouse on screen. But, of course, this isn't really communicated to the player. If you open the controls there, oh god, one sec, let me fix this menu too. There, that's better. Though this still didn't solve the underlying issue. For better clarity, I think it would work best to take what was under the hood and put it front and center for the player to see. Giving the control point a mesh, in this case a sort of hand of MIDAS, is truly all it takes to sell the effect. Now the player has some immediate feedback on what it is they're doing. And there, I think it's fair to call it done for today. To say that these improvements have relieved some of my artist stress would be an understatement, but yes, I'm much happier with this version of the game. Though as always, there's still lots left to do, and I would love to hear more feedback in the comments about other ways to improve MIDAS, especially in regards to more visual clarity. Thank you for sticking around and listening to me critique my own work. As always, you can find the current demo on my itch.io and my Patreon for more consistent updates. I'm going to leave things there and get back to working on the game now. Later.